Yeah, I've got three poems today. These have all been published before in Compendium, a Kitchen Sink. I have started in the habit of reading poems that I've published before just because I thought it would be a good exercise to have you hear it in my voice. I think most of the things I write are in my voice. This first one was quite recently published in Compendium. It's a letter to Diego Rivera on the event of another pilgrimage to the Rivera Courtyard at the Detroit Institute of Arts. And again, I'm going to repeat, if you've never been to this courtyard, never been to the Detroit Institute of Arts, you ought to do it. Anyway, so this is a letter to Diego Rivera. The mystery and depth of the dimness that envelopes me in the world surprised me when I walked into the courtyard today and it was suddenly revealed. How this room soothed me, Diego. And I've lived with it since I was a child, brought here with a crowd of kids by some teacher who may have only wished it would move me in ways I would not recognize until all these years later, even as it has on this day. Those first times, I focused on the bare breasts of the dark goddesses high in the corners. I suppressed my awe and my giggling, as any child might have here in this country of rapist presidents, war profiteers, and industrialists. I know you were familiar enough with the likes and dislikes of their kind as they chased you out of Rockefeller Center and wrecked your work there. But not here. You live here still. Still, nothing is perfect. Certainly not artists in this world of human struggle and wrongs. Frida in Henry Ford Hospital, carried away by a bloody miscarriage. How it can be so relentlessly gloomy, cold, and damp in this state as it is now, as I am now. Then I walked into this room again, making the most recent of what could only be called pilgrimage. How else describe it? Not just the spectacular American Sistine you've left us, but into my own awe again and again. Today, your latest message to me is clear, if we are allowed to speak of art in terms of message. The clamor of this assembly line transforms into more than machine, more than a congress of operators and observers, noise of creation, my own mind turning, connecting, moving in a dream or a poem, even this poem. Station to station, interior punch press operator, the forge, born in this boy from Detroit and put together with noise and grinding and punk rock and soul and tamales, uprisings and articulate infants in wombs and fists over all the doors. Oh, dear Diego, how can I thank you? The darkness these days is deep and will not lift as much as it may be made coherent. There's a gravity here between us, too. And the stop and start sets of feet moving through moving groups of children that might have been me, or lone wanderers from rooms of American landscapes who find this courtyard. I can only manage to persist in everything I came with, but dimness, and my despair. And I follow this with a postscript to the letter to Diego Rivera because I visited this room, especially my adult life over the past 10 or 15 years, and almost every time I've been here, there's been somebody in a bright red shirt. It's just weird. But I've had a few pictures every year. In fact, one of them, I swear, it was a visit. There were two visits separated by a couple of years, and I think it was the same guy in a red shirt. But anyway, this is called Postscript to Letter to Diego Rivera. And what of that man in the red shirt? How does he or someone dressed just like him always arrive? Each time I wander, sit, and stare in this shining Sistine. What about this man in the red shirt? How do these watchers, sitters, these picture takers passing through produce him, hold him, year after year? Is he always here, some man in a red shirt? What does he mean? Yes, it's true. Everyone entering inevitably becomes a part of the masterpiece, but just one with a red shirt? How does he always insert himself? Tell me, Diego. What do you know about him? Tell me. Tell me true. This next poem is quite old. In fact, I don't even really remember when I wrote it. It's been a long time. Um, but it surfaced again as poems do. They seem to surface. I'll be looking through the files and I'll go, oh, I remember that one. This is called This Is the Work. To find light in spite of the greatest darkness, to know that out of your utter unimportance your life has import and meaning, to swim through that current and revel in the bracing chill of it all, because it is all around you, because you must embrace your very lack of influence in a hollow culture that pretends that renown and wealth mean anything at all except for a weight that drags you blind to the bottom and bulldozes your breath under obliviousness and blood, the profit taken from suffering and ceaseless laments above the camps of the dispossessed, driven from valley to valley under the threat of annihilation and the bombs of the oligarchs into the great vortex of our impenetrable delusion that there is no end to the earth's generosity, and that we can mine it endlessly when it will slowly bury or drown us all. The islands will be first, all those lovely private pools and overwater bungalows where the rich fly to be served by peasants, removed from the catastrophes spawned by their hoarding. This is the work. To hold one's own with very little reward and the disappearance of name and recognition, to live some promise dreamt on the longest nights as we kneel and are thankful in the ink of darkness that smells of death, singing to ourselves, for whom is there left to hear? We have been so fortunate. We are alive enough that our songs and souls have held us and not allowed us to become them. I don't know if that's grim or hopeful. It's kind of a weird poem. But when we were in Icaria in Greece, there was a fella that had the hotel. He was a sweet guy. His name was Dimitri, like every other male that we met on this island seemed to be named Dimitri. Anyway, you know, it's just a mountain. It's named after Icarus, and it's supposed to be formed in the place that he fell into the Aegean Sea, and it's just a mountain. And so all the roads are extremely, steep, and lots of curves and very narrow. And so I asked him, I said, Dimitri, how often do somebody, drive off the edge of these roads and crash? And he just looked at me and went, eh. That was it. This last one's called Early Morning on the Train. It's another train poem. This is from my first bunch of train poems of a year ago, 2024. I was reading something from the New York Review of Books from Susan Tallman, and this is the epigraph. Paralyzing wee hours panic that haunts the art profession is the thought that maybe, after all, art is just stuff like shoes and placemats. And so I read, quote, when it came to Dutch art, quote, just before I look up through a kind of self-portrait by Rembrandt in the window of the observation car. What is in the darkness beyond that chiaroscuroed visage anyway? No mountains in the blank distance, no desert, just the intermittent pulse of this locomotive. Its syncopated squeak and rumble punctuates pre-dawn. I am the only one. Am I the only one? There's nothing and no one else to see. Lights glide by, distant, near, and when we drift toward a highway, maybe old Route 66 or the interstate, little unidentified connect-the-dots boxes of illumination travel alongside us for a while and then veer away. Consider that distant bluish star. It could just as well be a star as a haven for some outlaw meth amphetamine factory, such as things are in the featureless, forgotten backcountry beyond my vague likeness. And there must be animals in the dark beyond this train of light and rhythm, a plaintive horn. They are watching, aren't they? I stopped staring through my reflection for a moment, but there I am again, glasses shining from where they hang on my t-shirt collar, words, Big Sur, California, floating in the boundarylessness of this dark, inarticulate view. Places, even recent arrivals, recede into memory as I rock toward morning, with a veiled understanding that will take me completely out of the picture by the time we trundle into the painted desert. That one word just snags me. Chiaroscuro. Anyway, it's the right word. I'm a little retarded. See you later.